This is Impartial Theorists. We've got our first guest on the show. We put out the call for shit talkers to come talk some shit, and we've got our first responder. So Elliot is uh, he's an aspiring local comedian slash animation movie director.
Sure.
Maybe more.
I've been called worse.
This dude's got projects. So, he's also got some shit he wants to talk about, and we're gonna run it through the meat grinder here. So,
Sure.
With that, we'll give it to you, Elliot. Let's hear that background, man.
So,
where are you coming from?
I'm just like 28-year-old in 2017. I'm a single dad of a child with autism, and I'm like a low income earner. Excuse me. I guess I own that I earn low income. I guess that's fair. So I hear a lot of stuff in my housing cooperative community that I've recently joined this year, or last year, technically, and white supremacy and white privilege and the awareness that, or belief at least, that being anti-white and being involved in social justice in the minds of some on the more extreme spectrum are synonymous. And I can't help but notice that this is also on the advent of like Islamophobia and the whole transgender movement or conflict, or at least in the media.
I don't know, man. You're kind of all over the place. What
Sorry.
are we?
I said talk about myself.
Well, no.
I mean, around it too. So yeah, I just have some talking points from several commentators. Some aren't cited, some are. I'll cite what I can, but I could just start.
Sure, get right into it, man.
Okay. So back in the 60s, we had the hippie counterculture where people fought for socialism, communism, Maoism, the sexual revolution, some even for the acceptance of pedophilia, etc. And now, like, they won, and being a social justice warrior is the new mainstream. And I see people everywhere who are hating against the new bourgeoisie, aka Christian white, cis, het, able-bodied males. And they want to force a revolution against the white, cis, het patriarchy, it was in quotes, by the way, that is oppressing, quote, literally everyone who is not white, cis, het, Christian, able-bodied, and male. I see girls all the time that don't identify themselves as girl, parenthetical human / whatever, and parenthetical. They color their hair pink, red, whatever, wearing big glasses and using red lipstick, basically the feminist stereotype. They're shouting racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, xenophobia, slut-shaming, fat-shaming, makeup-shaming, etc., nonstop. They're using words like tolerance, progression, anti-racism, all while being the biggest hypocrites I've ever seen. Again, these aren't my words, this is written. Back in the 60s, these people were a minority. We all laughed about them. Now people with that mindset are the majority, thanks to the long march through the institutions. On the other hand, a conservative movement rising that is calling them out on their BS, and it becomes bigger and bigger. People are sick of PC culture. Still, the media and politicians are laughing at them, just like people laughed about the hippies. But it just keeps getting bigger. Thanks to the migrant crisis it made, a lot of people wake up. Even in the super tolerant progressive utopia, Sweden, the far-right party, Sweden Democrats is now the biggest party. Same happens in the Netherlands, Germany, etc., and the US is voting for Trump. Right-wing parties growing like crazy. Another thing I noticed, it's okay to post things in big forums now for which you would have been banned a couple months ago for being not PC, posting something that could or might potentially offend someone somewhere in the world. Seriously, who the fuck cares? For me, it looks like the pendulum is swinging back in full force now, and in a few years we will see a Western world that looks like the 50s again. And to be honest with you, I'm hyped for it. Otherwise, at least in Western Europe, Islam will come and make you conservative again with use of violence. No matter what will happen, the pendulum is swinging back to conservatism anyways. My advice is to choose Western conservatism and not the Islamic one. So what do you think? Will we be able to stop the social justice dystopia, and can we return to sanity? Alright, so before I move on to something else that I found, this seems like the byproduct of someone that feels threatened by the social justice movement to me.
Wait, this is not your...
Because you said these are more words like 3 times. I was getting
No,
scared.
I said these aren't my words.
Oh shit.
Wait, so who is that?
This was the first comment that came up in my Google search when I typed in some rhetoric like social justice, anti-social justice, or like PC police, like that whole...
So it's like just a comment in a forum?
It's the first thing at the top of Google that came. It's like the first thing that came was this quote. It's when I talked about it. And I just thought that, you know, this person's paranoia really, like, resonated.
You know, fucking yeah.
Not resonated, but, like, I don't agree with everything that they say. I think they're an extremist themselves, for sure. But I think they're the byproduct of, like, the opposite extremism. And I know it's, like, chicken or the egg, but
yeah.
I don't know
But there are extremists on, like, every single frontier. There's always going to be an extreme on both sides. And I don't know which was caused first, like you said. Like, if the chicken came before the egg, but all I can say is damn, that shit was shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we could unpack that, and there's a lot of problematic things said there.
Yeah,
and
for
just
sure.
a little bit vague, but no, I get the point you're saying. But I mean, I think the problem is just extremism, and extremism more so becoming the norm.
Yeah, I just wanted to state that this is like the benchmark for the extremist opposite of the extremist SJW, for context for the listener, and not like, I'm not here, that's not my opinion that I'm opening with.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it did sound like you said these are my words.
No,
like
I
a
said
couple
these
times.
are not my words.
I was like, huh. Okay.
I was like,
I said I had some
It's like right off the bat.
This
I was
is
like, did I miss some shit? I was like,
this excerpt is...
yeah, and that's what I thought at first. And then you said, these are my words. And I was like, okay.
Oh, did I say these are my words?
Yeah,
Like,
I think
literally
you said these
the
aren't
words
my
that I'm
words, but
speaking.
it sounded...
Alright,
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Just take that sound clip.
Yeah.
And
Well,
put in
just crank up the
patchwork.
volume.
Yeah.
There, but no, you know.
Pro shop that shit. Okay.
Okay, but no, I get fair enough. Keep going.
Okay. So there's an extremist, and here's the author of a book called The Myth of Male Power, Why Men Are the Disposable Sex. It's written in 1993 by Warren Farrell, and he argues that the widespread perception of men having inordinate social and economic power is false, and that men are systemically disadvantaged in many ways. And I personally both agree and disagree.
Yeah, I was
Like-
about to say the same, because women
like-
are also advantageous, and they also have a bunch of disadvantages.
kind
That's
of-
literally life.
It's an inane argument in a
Yeah.
way, but I feel like it's still a hot button issue right now just because of certain misinformation, and you can't have this discussion without citing people who make a general statement and say that men are just as disadvantaged, and that's not what I'm saying. But like, I thought some of these points were interesting, and it's in a published book, so that's gotta mean something, right? The 90s. Okay, so Farrell posits that men and women need to make an evolutionary shift from a focus on survival to a focus on proper balance between survival and fulfillment. The women's movement, he claims, has led to the resocialization of girls to become women who balance survival with fulfillment. but that no one has similarly resocialized boys to become men who pursue that balance once they take on the responsibility of children. Thus, Farrell believes boys and men are decades behind girls and women psychologically and socially, and increasingly behind women academically and economically. In Farrell's recent presentations on this topic, he estimates that women are in 2011 where men were in 1961. Farrell's political solution is neither a women's movement blaming men nor a men's movement blaming women, but a gender transition movement. He defines a gender transition movement as one that fosters a transition from the rigid roles of our past to more flexible roles for the future. This is a quote. Why men are the disposable sex, end quote. Farrell argues that historically both sexes were disposable in the service of survival. Women risked death in childbirth, men risked death in war. However, Farrell notes there's a key difference. Women's disposability emanated from the biology. Emanated more from biology. Men's required socialization. Damn, I fucked that up. I'm going to read that statement again. Farrell notes there's a key difference. Women's disposability emanated from biology. Men's required socialization. Okay, sorry. Farrell observes various characteristics of modern U.S. society, which, for instance, has a tendency to assign high-risk jobs to women, such as soldiers, firefighters, and coal miners. Almost all of those most hazardous professions are all male, and those professions have a higher percentage of men as the hazard increases. Other statistics point in the same directions. Men fall victim to violent crime twice as often as women, and are 3 times more likely to be murder victims. Suicide rates are much higher for men than women. For men over 85, even 1,350 times higher than for women of the same age. And while the death rates for breast cancer and prostate cancer are comparable, the U.S. spends 6 times as much on breast cancer. These statistics, Farrell suggests, can only be explained if U.S. society places greater stock in the lives of women than of men. Todd Jones cites this as an example of abductive reasoning. Rightly or wrongly, Farrell assumes that such behavior is rational, and the only explanation then is that women are actually perceived as the valuable gender, especially in evolutionary terms, who needed to be protected and preserved at all cost, while men, a dime a dozen in evolutionary terms, are thought of as essentially disposable, like ant drones or something. Men, Farrell posits, learn to earn money to gain the approval of their parents and the respect of other men. Heterosexual men also learn to earn money to earn their way to female love. Women don't marry men, reading Why Men Are the Way They Are in the unemployment line. Farrell introduced in the Myth of Male Power a thesis that he pursued in depth, Why Men Earn More, in 2005, that earning money involves forfeiting power. He goes on to describe his theory that the earning money is less about power and more about trade-offs. Farrell proposes that the road to high pay is a toll road. You earn more when you pay 25 specific tolls, such as working more hours or taking less fulfilling or more hazardous jobs. The myth of male power. Oh, sorry. That was...
We've learned that last line is straight up bullshit.
Really?
Yeah, because a lot of women do the same exact shit that the men do, like in a bunch of these companies. But then men still get paid more. They can stay the same fucking hours. Like, there have been studies about this shit. They can stay the same hours, do the exact same fucking, like, literally be identical, except for gender, and they'll get paid less.
Actually, I don't know. Like, I can't, like, pull up any statistics right now, I guess, but, like, I mean, from what I've heard, though, is that, like, a lot of that, like, if you compare men and women overall, men make more than women.
It's not
if you actually look in these specific fields of women, or like in a specific field at like certain companies or whatever, and look at, if you just compare men and women, still, then it'll look like men make more. But if you compare the men and the women who have never had kids, women actually make more generally than men if they're like both just working adults who've never taken time off for kids, like man or woman. But I mean, I'm sure that varies, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of factors that like location and fucking age and that kind of shit, and also is the whole population as a whole, just male and female comparing that shit. So if there was more males, it could make it no.
Well, and
No,
I mean, it's been like it's changing, but you got to also think like it's taking into account like the older generation as well, who currently like most of them, it's been way more common for women to stay at home. So like now more women are actually graduating from college than men, and like going into the workforce, and I'm sure like in the next 20 years the like wage gap from, I don't know, to me I think it is like, I've heard that argument that it's more from just like women choosing to stay home and not work. I mean, I don't know, I can say like I think nowadays it is different being like a parent myself. Like my child's mother, like when we, I mean, initially when the kid was first born, like she stayed home with him and I worked full time because that was like the only practical thing to do because she was breastfeeding, and like I don't know, she just couldn't really go to work. But then like once he was the age, like I was very happy to switch off, and we were like both working part time, and like I don't know, for honestly like a long time she was making more money than me, and I don't know, might still be, I don't really know for sure, but now he's in school and we're both working more. But I mean, I think that there has been like a dynamic change in the way parenting, and I think that I don't know, to me like that has to be a contribution to the wage gap, because if you're looking at all the statistics and grouping in, like it has for a long time been the norm for women to stay home at least for a while from work. So it's like if there's gaps of years or months or whatever of non-payment, then yeah, like overall it's going to look like women have made less. But I mean, I'm not saying that I don't think there's any such thing as like sexism or discrimination, but I mean, I do think that like it's more so those other factors that contribute to it than just like straight up like a woman getting paid less than a guy for doing the exact same job.
So the whole 10 cents on the dollar wage gap thing is...
I don't think that's an exaggeration.
It's 80
That's
cents.
not...
It's 80 cents, yeah.
At the very sense, it's not what people think it is, and they don't account in that ratio for the difference in industry demographics. Like, women are making more than men in early child development, dental hygienics, legal page work. That's to name a few off the top of my head.
Well, and like you mentioned, like it's mostly men that go into those like high risk jobs like construction, which also tend to be like high pay.
I'll tell you another thing is that a lot of people thought that the stereotype of women perceived as being weak was why they were not allowed to join the military for so long, when in fact it was that it would play bad in war propaganda for headlines to read massive women casualties on the battlefield. So female life was so valued in the 19, like when people were really racist and sexist at an all-time high.
I wouldn't
like,
say it was
women
necessarily...
life was still valued more than men, even if it wasn't like the fulfillment of women life wasn't valued, but female life was highly valued because
they're seen as weaker and basically that they need protection, and I think that's what pisses a lot of them off.
No, it was a media thing. You can look that up.
It was?
Yeah, it was a statement from like a White House press.
Yeah.
Well,
I understand that part.
Like the idea is that like you're saying, like society cares for like women. Like you're saying, men are more disposable, so they're sent off to war. So like, but I don't know. I mean, I think that like I think women should be allowed to be in the military if they want. Like, I don't really see anything wrong with it, but.
Who's that comedian? Is like women and children first. That's why you make $1 less. Like
I think that was Louis C.K.
Someone.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's popped into my head.
Yeah, Louis C.K. made a joke about that. I'm pretty sure it was him. That
Sounds
was
like
saying
something
that, yeah,
he'd
like
say. Louis.
men. All right, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't him, but yeah, I do remember saying, "Can we make that joke?" That like, yeah, there's like a. Oh, I think I know who it is. I can't remember his name. It's like an Irish dude. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I think that the point you're making is that like basically the like feminist argument kind of like overlooks those things a little bit, and I don't know. Kind of, I mean, I do think there's things that do need to be like addressed about the gender gap. I'm sure there's like examples you could come up with.
Yeah.
But like I do think like the overall like narrative does miss those like subtleties that you've pointed out. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable to talk about male disposability because, in light of the privilege wars and with the emergence of female voices in the liberty movement, the concept of male disposability has become like a hot topic and common argument
I think it needs
against
to
the
be pointed
value
out
of feminism.
that male disposability probably only applies to lower income people, because richer people aren't gonna fucking go fight the war if they don't have to.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. But then we're getting into hierarchy and like
Yeah.
tribalism and classism. And yeah, like those are the real problems, I think, is the wealthy and the people that like to make us divided. So like, what can we do to combat that divide? We can disillude, like, you know, there's no reason for men and women to be fighting of any economic class, or for there to be an imbalance of power. Like, there's, you know, this plight out there, and that plight is being fed, and that's like a fire being fed, and it spreads, and you're spreading more discontent than progress. And like, discontent doesn't necessarily lead to progress. Sometimes it just leads to like mass deconstruction with nothing left over to help anyone. It's kind of like the emancipation of the slaves. Like, they were freed, but then there was no safety net for them really after they were freed. There was no like, well, you're not allowed in the North. You just got to deal with the like sore loser Confederate South. Like, stay there, you know. And it's like, it's just there's always this legislation from lobbyists and the wealthy to keep us divided. Like, they used gay marriage to get rid of civil union. You know, like even progressivism through the government is like a weapon against the sexes, the races. And I think that includes white people, honestly. Like, if the media can paint white people as these bougie, evil, unempathetic, sociopath, like, world power, collective world power.
Yeah, but the media, you gotta remember, the media does that to every fucking group. They've done that shit to Muslims way more than they've done that to white people. They do it to black people way more. And I would say the people they do it to less are fucking Asians. Because, except for North Korea, yeah. And, like, even Russia is, like, we were talking about this earlier. Like, if the media has a grudge against you, they'll paint you as whatever the fuck they want to paint you as. And honestly, I think white people are just the next step. And honestly, there was cause for that because of the fucking racist shit that people didn't believe was happening to black people before the media came around. Like, people have been getting killed by police fucking while ago. It's just becoming, people are protesting it more because they can fucking see it now.
Mm-hmm.
And once, it's, as you say, seeing is believing. Once they see that shit, it incites some fucking, like, rage in you. And the media just has to fucking make money. It wasn't going to make people watch that if they make white people look like the fucking, like, problem. And just like people would say it's not all black people, white people can say it's not all white people too. Muslims can say, like, it. Honestly, nobody gives a shit about that. Once they paint you as this, that's what the fuck you are, in most people's eyes. Even if they act like, yeah, that's what the fuck you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
And that's a huge problem.
I had something for this. I've lost it in my document here.
Shit, you've done more prep than we've ever done.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, yeah, I think it's more just the media's like drive for painting somebody's got to be the bad guy. I don't know. I mean, I think Russia, you could say, has like it's gotten a pretty bad rap. For probably most Russians are like pretty chill people.
There was some shit in Russian news, like have they blamed us for Harvey yet?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that shit.
So, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like certain people just taking that too far, like that's a thing too. But I mean, I'd say on all sides there too. Like there's obviously conservatives and like right wing extremists take shit too far. So Harvey,
How I was typing looking for that shit that I was talking about, and then
Type in white privilege is a myth.
let me see.
Google that. We just have a podcast where we Google things. We call it Google that.
I'm guessing Milo Yiannopoulos is gonna be the first one that comes up.
Not Tila Tequila.
Oh, I forgot about her. There's a
She's
fucking
she's
National
Nazi
Review.
now.
Yeah. Is she even white?
Who? Tila
She-
Tequila?
yeah.
No, she's Asian.
How the fuck is she a Nazi? I get that
She's
I know,
2/3 the Axis powers, she brags.
Yeah, that's what she actually. What?
I'm pretty sure.
Damn, that's next level psychotic.
Yeah, she's
But why you want to be the Axis? They fucking lost.
she's probably addicted to drugs and has some like sleazy agent that's just like, yeah, you can maintain like your
by
drug
being-
habit by dressing up like a Nazi in skimpy Nazi outfits on the internet. Like, just do it, look sexy, and we'll be fine with it.
There's quite a few.
Well, I think I've heard the white privilege is a myth argument, and I mean I think like the thing there is that like it's the difference between statistics and individuals. Like a lot of times when people talk about white privilege, they talk like
I think this is the point you're trying to make.
yeah. I mean I feel like that's what like
Okay, I could do that.
on one end. Like, I just think the people that, like, make the, like, white privilege argument, like,
So
forget to emphasize, like, oh, yeah, that we're talking about statistics, like, overall what. Like, it's just, like, a weird thing because the way I've seen people do it is just, like, it's, like, in a way you should feel bad because you're white, even though you may personally, like, not be bad, So
Why
it's like,
should you feel bad? You should understand the shit your people have done and just fucking try. I guess white girls trying to pay back for all that shit, but sometimes like chill the fuck out. Like, nah.
So
Some people take it too far.
well, yeah, like what I said earlier, I mean,
Like
when we were
overcompensating
talking about
for,
just,
for
like,
white guilt. It's just chill.
yeah, I mean, it's important to
Yeah.
have an understanding of history and, like, put that shit in context and, like, understand the effect it has on the present day.
And
But,
plus,
yeah.
you will have to make atonements in your day-to-day life. But white guilt is like some people just take it to the fucking
abusing
extreme.
white guilt is wrong.
Yeah, and
Like,
also
that's
overshowing white guilt is fucking
Abusing
annoying.
white guilt is like to a lesser extent would be like threatening a black person with police intervention. I think, like, not with the same consequences, obviously, in that it doesn't invite violence, but it is like, I bet,
It kind
if
of
you
does.
wanted to
It
scare
depends
someone
on-
like
yeah.
a teenager off or something,
Or
like,
even that's a low key. That's a threat to a black person because it sounds like you're calling the police on them to come beat them, attack
right?
them.
Yeah.
Even though the wording actually isn't that. It's everything that when you say police officer, it just implies that, and it seems
Right.
kind of fucked up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's
Just little shit
definitely-
like it's fucking complicated, man.
Yeah, there's roots to being white, I agree, through history that comes with a bad reputation, but aren't we supposed to be moving past like mindless nationalism? you know.
Yeah, that's never gonna change. That's
Not with that attitude. Like,
Because even without nationalism, there's tribalism. There's always gonna be some sort of fucking.
well, let's just try to, maybe the media could brainwash us to fight over something else.
Yeah, and then getting back to that, like, is the media like doing this, or is it like the media is always the chicken and the egg question?
No, but at this point, I don't think the media is in full control of its own self.
Yeah.
A double standard in the media whereby women automatically have the audience's sympathy and men don't comes in a large part for the need for hordes of non-faceless mooks whose suffering and death we won't lose much sleep over in all sorts of media. A female character can lose some or even all of the audience's sympathy if they are manipulative, somehow immoral, ugly, violent, or just plain evil. Male characters, on the other hand, have to earn the audience's sympathy by entertaining or listening or interesting us with their actions. If they don't, we either don't care what happens to them or want them to suffer for failing to entertain/interest us. A lovable coward, male character, is not an exception, since we find them entertaining. Strangely, women find it difficult to lose audience sympathy by being useless, worse than useless, or selfish cowards. As long as they don't get other people with the audience's sympathy killed, that is stranger still. All this can still hold true if the woman in question has already been established as a badass. See chickification. This is from a Tropes website.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of hate this, like, oh shit, the fucking battery died. God damn it.
When did it die? Holy shit.
Well, I've been looking at it like every couple seconds, so it must have just happened.
Wait, did you just plug in the
Oh, it's low battery, so yeah, but I've got to
plug in the power bank. Why isn't it plugged in?
Well, I don't know how to look it up here. But
you just slide it in between and just plug it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peel this thing off here. My mustache.
Yeah, just see if you can find a space like you can slide it in.
Oh yeah, it's working. Or is it? It doesn't show that it's charging, but maybe. I don't know. We'll just see what happens, I guess. What does it say in the front?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, before it was blinking the battery thing, so maybe it's just like, maybe it's not charging, but it's just like using the
power.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Okay, well, as long as that doesn't do anything, we should be good.
Should I forget what we're talking about?
No, I don't know. I just hate, like, media. Like, it sounds like this is, like, talking about, like, movies and TV shows and shit. And I feel like that shit is just, like, so subjective and, like, loose, like. Because how do you do that? You just, like, have to watch movies and shit. And, like, it's all just going to depend on, like, what you watched and how you perceived it, you know? Like,
it's a statement at what...
Plus, this only applies to American TV tropes. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's hard to draw... Like, I feel like anybody could watch, like, the same set of movies and draw, like, totally different conclusions and, like, point out all the tropes of, like, different dynamics. Like...
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, when you watch these ones, like the feminism tropes ones, it's just like, I don't know, like, the Anita Sarkeesian ones, like, I've watched those, and it's, like, clearly, like, and then I've watched, like, where she talks about how certain games are sexist, and then there's, like, gamers that'll, like, post a video, and, like, all the points, like, she's made videos that are, like, how video games have, like, female butts, but not male butts, but then, like... she showed, like, how in Batman he has a cape covering his butt, so it's like... But then, like, these gamers release this video where it's, like, just tons of shots of, like, Batman's butt, like, all over the place, like... And you can, like, put him in different outfits that, like, accentuate his butt and stuff, so it's just, like... And I think they, like, did it for the other games that she, like, talked about, too. Yeah. It's just, like...
I don't think any of that is that deep, straight up. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like, yeah, it's just something you can kind of slice or dice anyway when you're, like, talking about, like, something as loose and subjective as, like, TV or movies. I don't know. That's just my. I don't know. I just feel like it's not. Unless you have like a really specific like movie we're talking about, it's like, well, this was fucked up, and like a bunch of people loved this movie and like
Shit, fucking
thought it
Titanic.
was cool
Fucking Titanic,
when this like
man.
fucked up thing happened. Like then, yeah, let's talk about that. But if it's just like vaguely like the
Shit.
media's
Yeah.
portrayal, I don't know. Just
I'm gonna throw out Titanic. Rose shouldn't have fucking let him drown. She could have shared the door with him. And like,
What are you talking about?
Rose shouldn't have let fucking Leonardo DiCaprio die. That was fucked up.
Right?
Yeah.
That was some fucked
Thank
nigga
you.
shit. That was like why?
You couldn't have pulled him a book.
disposable man right there.
Like there was
He didn't want to
fucking.
capsize the.
But I think he might have just wanted to die. So at least that's how I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to die. He was a time traveler. He had to die. Haven't you read the fan theories? How the hell did he know about that roller coaster that supposedly was built 7 years later? How?
Holy shit.
Let's
He
talk
just
about that.
Went back to the future at the bottom of his time portals at the bottom.
Yeah,
of the
exactly. He just went back to the future. Like there was a heated blanket waiting for him.
Then that changes the whole thing. That makes him kind of a dickhead.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
he used Rose, got some pussy in and
yeah,
just
man.
traumatized her for the rest of his life.
Time travel doesn't make rape okay.
Yeah.
He was very
Yeah.
misleading.
That's a topic for the future.
Right.
Eventually, they're gonna be talking about.
This has just become a new podcast. We're gonna talk about
Shit.
the ethics of time travel.
Can you rape someone in the future? If you rape someone in the future and you're from the past, did it happen?
There's a sci-fi story called Predestination, where this person goes back in time, and they were a male and they became a female in the past, and then they had sex with their younger self, and they reproduced themselves because it's them, but it's both parts of the chromosome because it's the future and you can literally change your biological anatomy, not like you get a
Pretty futuristic.
yeah,
That just hurts my brain.
not like a phalloplasty or
That hurts.
yeah,
That hurts.
it does hurt.
Yeah, I don't like
Is that masturbation?
I don't want to think that.
Is that
That
just
hurt.
like an epic? Like some people strangle themselves, and some people like go back in time and like give birth to themselves.
Like I legit have a headache now.
Paradox.
Paradox.
Yeah,
It's a
fucking-
time loop for sure because
How do we even know what we think of time loops is even right? Because it could be something a totally different way of.
Oh yeah.
Like we might fuck.
Yeah, no. What time is something we like in science don't really understand that
Yeah.
well. It's like one of the most
Time is
mysterious things. Like
'Cause it's
there's
subjective.
there's no common, or there's no like current physical explanation for why time moves like in one direction. Like according to I think, like Einstein's
his
general
theory
relativity,
of
like-
relativity was disproven.
like.
But the
What?
thing is, it could be
Yeah.
proven
No,
again.
no.
Shit.
Yeah, look it
I
up.
think I heard something about that.
No, it's been proven more so over the years. There's people that have tried to disprove it, and it's like there are problems with it because there's quantum mechanics and the math from quantum mechanics and relativity like don't jive up. So they know that there's something. We don't have the whole picture, but as far as like
Disproven.
NASA,
it says that he's not supposed to be possible. It's not supposed to be possible. Einstein's special theory of relativity states that no object with mass can travel faster than light. It was as physicist Ransom
No, but they found out that some
put it
particles
in
can.
Nautilus, an atom bomb in the heart of our understanding of the universe. Yeah, it's just like a misconception of like physicist studies because there were so many atomic era scientists. A distant black hole may disprove theory of relativity. There's
Shit.
one mistake in physics that nearly disproved. Well, that's stupid. Why would you talk about
I don't see anything that's saying though that. I mean, it hasn't been disproved because I mean, just last year they like were able to detect the first gravitational wave. So I mean, that like reassured. It's just they know like that's the thing they need to develop a unified theory that brings quantum mechanics and Einstein's theory together. So like they know that quantum mechanics isn't the full picture, and they know that Einstein's relativity isn't the full picture, but they just don't know like that's like what string theory is, and like most modern physics are trying to work on. But that's one thing that general relativity does not explain is why they're like, when you do the math with relativity, like time should be able to go either way. Like there's no reason or explanation or mathematical way of finding out why time only moves in one direction. Like, so yeah, I'm just saying. Like, I don't know. I've read like Brian Greene. He's like a astrophysicist that's like written some books that are like, I don't know, just basically the most like, I guess,
Well, I will tell you
current.
that he did
Modern
not have
physics
learning
views.
disabilities, and that he was a very good student.
Brian Greene. He was a
Albert
Rhodes Scholar.
Einstein.
Oh, he was not a good student. Or
He was. A
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of people think that he was dyslexic, or people like to say that, and it's not true. And he got very good grades, as would be expected of a genius.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know that much about his like childhood, I guess. But I watched this one movie about him. It's like about how when he was like during the war, and then he like basically fled Germany
Yeah.
for England. Yeah. Anywho, how do we even get on physics
I don't
and
fucking know.
Einstein?
I don't.
So the argument goes like this: society has always valued the lives of women more than those of men. This is because prehistorically, the continuation of the species required many women who had reproductive limits, but few men who could theoretically reduce their numbers to one and still provide a
What?
steady stream, pun intended,
Why
of offspring. This tendency prevailed,
Oh,
and even in the present, men face their morality more often than women do. On a sinking ship, it's always women and children first, and men are still solely targeted for the draft. Because men are disposable, they are given less affection in childhood and are chastised for displays of emotion throughout life. Women may be objectified, but unlike men, they are more likely to be protected from harm.
nah.
Speakers like Stephen Molyneux and Karen Strogan use the claim to discredit feminism, which in their estimation seeks to maintain this standard and also arms to strip men of the respect they've earned through their sacrifices. Before addressing the crux of this argument, that feminism is incongruous with acknowledging male disposability, it has to be said that the women as the protected gender portion of their argument betrays a narrow view of race and class on the part of the claimants. Being a woman, currently and historically, may buy you protected ornament status, but only if you were lucky enough to be born in the right ethnic and socioeconomic class. Otherwise, your disposability was usually tied to your utility as a sex object. Poor women, and women of color, died right alongside their men in factories and fields throughout history. And while they didn't face the battlefield, losing their partner in war often meant vulnerability to starvation and predation. On the Titanic, wealthy men waited for their wives to board the lifeboats, but women in steerage died at roughly the same rates as the wealthy men. Putting aside the oversight, the claim that men experience unique inequalities due to their gender makes some sense. Men face dangers in combat that women generally don't, at least in this country. And male infant circumcision is widely practiced, while FGM, usually more brutal, though still stemming from disrespect for the bodily autonomy of children, is decreed as barbaric.
Yeah, because it's a lot worse.
Girls have more culturally accepted mobility through traditional gender roles than boys do. Like a girl can dress like a boy, but a boy can't dress like a girl. What doesn't make sense is using male disposability to discredit feminism. People who identify as feminists hold differing views on many issues, but textbook feminism is not incompatible with an opposition to male disposability in theory or practice. Feminism originated in the 18th century, largely in part from the writings of Mary Wollstonecraft, an anarchist who argued for women's rights on the grounds that men and women were individuals and the subjugation of one or the other benefited neither. Throughout the 19th century, feminists combated major institutions of male disposability, such as exploitative labor and slavery. Presently, feminists still make up a large faction of the anti-war movement, and proponents of women in combat use feminism to defend their position. The anti-infant circumcision movement has a fair share of feminists, and feminists have long been allies of the LGBTQ community, which has lost countless men and boys to society-sanctioned homophobia. Feminism began as a reaction to female disposability. Until the last few decades, women were largely denied complete humanity legally and socially. Though women didn't die en masse on the battlefield, young girls sold into marriages died in the birthing bed in staggering numbers. Domestic violence was treated as private issue, and marital rape wasn't nationally criminalized until 1993. The same year that one dude's book was written. But disposability isn't exclusive to either gender, and feminists' acknowledgement of its impact on women doesn't necessitate denying the impact on men. This is the fundamental problem with the way most people present the disposability argument. They use it to draw lines in the sand, not to address the real problem. Stéphane Melinu and Karen Stroffen don't address their accusations to the states or theocratic institutions that perpetuated male disposability for 2,000 years before feminism came on the scene. They don't attack the "my son will not be a sissy" macho culture. Instead, they direct their ire at feminism, a movement that has devoted a lot of time and energy to dismantling those institutions for the betterment of all people. Okay.
Actually, I'm gonna have to pick up Ezra here, so I'm gonna have to leave in like 10 minutes.
Oh shit.
So we're gonna have to kind of wrap this up. So
Alright, that's cool.
I mean, I don't know. So what are you saying? You're saying that just like the
Being a man is hard too.
Feminism's view of men, or
I'm critiquing that feminism is used centrally for like women for basic, almost like seemingly semantical reasons. Like it's called feminism, so people think it's for women, but like it's more positive to think that it's for everybody and the betterment of everybody's lives. But you have like feminism they should change it to like equalism or equalitarianism or something, and they already have that word.
But I mean, the whole disposable man thing, like, I mean, are you saying that is like problematic, or that's just like the fair trade-off reality of the situation? Like,
it's by no means like, is it a fair trade-off? Well, what do you mean by fair trade-off?
well, are you just saying like that, like, okay, so if feminists are gonna talk about equality, they should also be addressing
The 2,000 years of misandry that came before the feminist movement, that like it is like, you know, they're ignoring the plight of one gender and like putting the focus on their own. And it's much like Lee said earlier about the wealthy and like keeping people divided. So like there's probably rich people at the head of the feminist movement that like release this misandrous toxicity into the movement. Like whether it's an extremist on Tumblr demanding for the death of all cis scum, or
I kind of understand why people feel like men cause shit on, because they kind of do. We kind of do a bunch of stupid shit for no fucking, like a lot of wars have been fought for no fucking reason, and
Yeah.
most and a lot
you don't think Janet Reno had anything to do with that?
Who's Janet Reno?
You know who Janet Reno
No.
is. Waco.
she's the Secretary
Janet
of State,
Reno.
right, for Bush?
She's the Secretary of Defense for
Secretary of
Clinton or
Defense.
something. No, she was the attorney.
Something like that.
Something.
Some high
She like
class.
was just always sending in SEAL Team fucking 6 into problems.
Yeah,
Okay.
they could.
Okay.
I'm not saying they can't be
Administration.
temperamental.
Yeah,
women.
yeah, yeah.
That's definitely
Women-
fucking
women
temperamental.
have
Sarah, you
crossed
think
wars.
Sarah
Shit,
Palin
yeah.
can't do damage?
Yeah,
like,
but
holy
the
crap.
thing is, statistically, women are more predisposed to forgive than men, or they could either hold an extreme grudge, or they could forgive you pretty easy. This
I mean, hey, even Hillary Clinton defends rapists, right?
Okay, yeah. I would say Look, so I've been going to like
Yeah.
city meetings and seeing like city councils and school boards,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just gonna say that overall, the women usually have like it's always or not always, but more often a man that's like making shit harder, like putting up like more resistance. I mean it goes both ways, definitely.
Yeah,
but I do think
the client shit was mostly women.
I think but yeah, women are like more forgiving or like more willing to work together. And I think that there might be some biological argument you can make that contributes to that.
But I think that applies more when they're trying to protect something than when they're just being vengeful. Because if a woman is being vengeful, like you can't do shit, you're gonna lose.
Yeah, I mean, but that's why I think it's just good to have a mix. Like that's why like I think city councils, legislatures just need to be like about 50-50. That's like because then you get the.
Because all sides.
Because I think if it is too many men, then you do tend to get a few more men that are like more like
people
I
start
don't know.
butting heads.
They just like butt heads more. I feel like
yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean no, I've definitely seen like
she's a woman.
Council
she's got
women
to fight for her place amongst these repressive men because they must be repressive.
I don't think you
they're
necessarily
just a
have to be
bunch of men. Duh, bunch of disposable. Yeah.
Shit, the baby boomers, a lot of them were like that though.
Well, I mean, baby boomers are definitely disposable. Am I right? Like,
God, they don't say that shit. I mean, they're more.
It undermines your whole thing.
they bump.
Now you're just an ageist.
Yeah, an ageist.
Nah, but the baby boomers did a lot of shit.
Look, there's tons of anti-aging supplements out now, and
are they proven?
I think the baby boomers also just had too much lead in their blood.
Oh yeah.
Because they needed to just chill the fuck out. They still need to chill the fuck out.
Too much lead and DEET.
Yeah.
And cell phone radiation.
Yeah.
They still need to chill the fuck out.
Well, now there's like two subsets of millennials, and they're at conflict. There's like everyone, the 25 and up, and then there's the 24 and down.
I seriously don't. I don't know. It's just hard that like.
I don't think there's a straight line though.
Well, no, I heard someone say someone said they were millennial the other day, and then somebody else was like, "Oh, were you born in '89?" And they're like, "Oh no," and they're like, "Oh, you're not a millennial." It's like
84.
I don't even think is there set like years because it's literally just a fuzzy.
So like no. Time magazine made it up like a long time ago. In truth, if we're gonna be like, maybe not even Time, but like there was a magazine that just like talked about what was it, Generation X, Generation Y.
That's what, it's just magazines trying to come up with things that's
the media dividing people.
To me,
I think those,
people of all ages.
I think there wasn't.
That's the damage. That's what I mean. You were saying like you don't want to talk about these movie tropes, but now here we're acknowledging the media's effect.
Yeah,
like
media
this.
But
you telling me the ages aren't at war, but this is from a magazine article, like way back then. So, it's just like how engagement rings were propaganda from the De Beers diamond cartel in 1910. And that's why people propose with diamond rings.
Every fucking where.
Yeah.
Literally the whole world.
Yeah.
That shit is crazy.
So, like, the media and these general tropes that are subjective, like, they do chisel us into a certain shape on some level.
Yeah, but then I think we got to pull apart the media, because if we're talking about like if we're
Jews?
grouping news in with like marketing agencies, in with like all movies and TV shows and magazines, I don't know. I think because there's like news has a different effect. Like there's good news and there's fake news, but then there's also like marketing, which is kind of like a whole different thing, which is pretty much going to be shitty most of the time, just because like it's all about selling something. And money,
yeah, but
so.
there's
good ones too. There's good ads that like bring ads. People together, like the jingles.
The Indonesian ads and shit. The Indonesian ads will make you cry and go buy a fucking car.
What ads?
Yo, the fucking dad and his daughter shit. Like, you ever seen those Indonesian like? Oh shit!
I will describe the image.
Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah, there can be good advertisers. You know, that's the thing too.
Like easy bake ovens with boys playing with the easy bake oven. Like that is a good advertisement. We need that. We need that propaganda. What we don't need is like every tragedy played 24/7 across the country, like every time it happens. We don't need that, and we don't need like these weird tropes in our media. Like we can have a female John McClane, who's transgendered. We can have, you know. Alright.
Yo, Indonesian ads.
This has been Impartial Reasoning with
Impartial
Jeff
theorists.
Goldblum.
And now we're watching some depressing ass fucking.
This has been Improbable Reasoning with. Is this Old Boy? Is that what we're watching?
Nah, it's just a Thai fucking sad fucking. I don't even know what they sell half the time, but you know that shit is implanted in your brain somehow. You go buy some shit that
You know
saw
what we
in
should
it,
do is we should watch a movie
and then talk shit
and talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
like the implications
Yeah,
and just
kind of
like
what we have done before. Just watch
spiral out of control.
But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna have to get going, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up.
You don't
yeah,
want to finish watching the sad Indonesian ad.
Oh, shit. No, I cannot finish watching this.
How did it go? Did we do it right? We should.
Yeah, we did it.
Is there some way you'd rather us do it in the future, like in order to
Shit,
things?
we'll figure that
I like
shit
the
out.
No,
dinging.
we're working on it. We're like, we didn't come up with like a solid.
We didn't have a
I
script.
think
We
we
didn't have
should
a
have
script.
we
We
should
didn't
have an
have a
amount of
script.
time
Yeah.
to talk, and then we should like ding at the end of that time interval. And
That's
then
socialism, man. We don't do
it's
that
socialism.
shit. Yeah.
Listen,
We
you
don't do that
neocon.
shit.
Exactly an hour.
I'm a
now.
neoconservative.
59.
Next time, I would like to re-record the asking me about myself, and like I'm gonna write something like I'm a neoconservative liberal cuck, and like
Don't say.
What
No,
the
even
hell?
the word "cuck" sounds fucked up because of
yeah,
when
I
we use
know.
that word.
That's why it's all over the media.
Yeah, you can't even say.
Look, they use it in the House of Representatives. I should be able to use it in our like
Nah,
amateur
because
podcast.
It's like saying standing up for the cis white man. It just sounds bad
Standing
because
up
of the
for
people
I
who
am
say.
standing up for
Yeah,
the cis
but
white
if,
man.
I understand how you're saying it.